Welcome to another smashing episode of Minding My Business, the CEO Story, Season 3, powered by Nucleus Office Parks. This particular season, we're talking to CEOs from the IPC, International Property Consultant space, and none, uh, none more charismatic than Anshuman Magazine, Chairman and CEO, India, Southeast Asia, Middle East, and Africa at CBRE. Wonderful to talk to you. I really appreciate your time. How are you doing?
Thank you for having me. I'm doing well. Thank you.
I'm going to start with a CBRE South Asia Office report. Now, as per your CBRE South Asia Office report findings, office space, Anshuman, is showing a lot of resilience. The office sector in India witnessed gross absorption of 42.1 million square feet during 9M 2022. Supply has also grown. If you could just give us the relevant findings of that report, we'd be grateful.
See, overall, like you rightly said, the office market has been resilient. And the reason for that is that India is offshoring destination, tech destination for the world. By far, compared to any other country, we are, I would say, number one in the world for this. And if you look at our office space, a large amount of space is taken by these multinational companies who are outsourcing and offshoring to India, besides the tech firms. We as a country not only dominate this area, but have a track record which is unparalleled, because India has been in this domain in the offshoring sector for many years and has delivered results. And therefore, most of the large organizations, especially the American firms, are very confident and very, because of the track record of delivery for so many years, have that confidence in India. And that continues. And that is the reason why our office market, in spite of all the gloom and doom you hear about global economy, etc., does well. Besides that, there is also domestic organization and companies and other, besides the American firms, European firms, Asian firms, who have been trying to establish themselves in India. The manufacturing sector is slightly doing better than before. Logistics, all those others who need office space, then India is becoming a R&D hub also. So all of that put together really contributes to the office market. And that's the reason that it has been resilient. It also shows that the job market in India, especially in the tech sector, has been doing well.
You mentioned the word gloom very briefly, and that segues nicely into my next question. Do you think the recession in the US will impact US based corporations' IT spending and the IT outsourcing industry?
Frankly, early days to determine what's going to happen. But if I look at historically, in this context, and especially for India, there was a time when it used to be said that if America sneezes, the rest of the world catches a cold. We're not, at least I'm not expecting that to happen with India, especially. Maybe if America sneezes, we may get a sniffle, but hopefully not a cold. And the reason for that is that that there is same that when a recession happens or slowdown happens, especially in the West, especially in the US, they need to be more cost optimum. Basically, put in place, they need to cut costs. And one of the major ways they've been cutting costs is by offshoring. So where they're taking and India gets maximum benefit out of it. So I'm hoping that if there is a slowdown, it should be positive for India, because these companies would need to, optimize their costs, reduce their costs, and they will move towards delivering their work, be it product development, software development, even business process outsourcing to country like India, where they can continue to grow at a lower cost. However, the only caveat is that it does slows down the decision-making process. And even to offshore, you need to invest. So sometimes that investment slows down, but overall, I think India is in a strong position. And as of today, we don't know. I think we'll be in a better position to know the real impact in next 2-3 months. But as far as today is concerned, India is going to show resilience. for at least for next year, I would say.
Anshuman, I remember the press was going to town about this in July of this year. Unicorns demanding more office space. Therein, my question is: are unicorns demanding more office space currently, or was that something that just happened in July and then died down? And if unicorns are demanding more office space, which city leads the market?
Unicorns are demanding more office space than before, but certainly, I would say going forward, that will be a segment which will have at least some significant contribution to overall demand. So it's an ongoing process, and also in the background of the whole office situation changing. The If you look at our country, 60+% of the real estate, if not 65% plus, real estate activity takes place in NCR, Bangalore, and Mumbai region, right? So that still continues. This is where most of the unicorns are. The exception to this is, and this is overall office. I'm not saying where the unicorns are based. The only exception is one city which has done surprisingly has really done well from the real estate perspective. Office space is Hyderabad, and of course there are other cities, Pune, Chennai. But I would say activity still for unicorns also are these three: NCR, Bangalore, and Mumbai. Hyderabad is another one which is coming up.
Office leasing is up 97% in Jan to September in 6 cities, Anshuman. And this in September 2022, according to CBRE, I was reading. The APAC Leasing Market Sentiment Index for India continued to be the highest amongst major APAC markets. Talk about this and what are the chances of it hitting some record numbers in 2022? Is this spurt in leasing also as a corollary? Is this spurt in leasing also because of a spillover in demand from the last 2 years?
First of all, this year, till next 6 weeks, although the year is coming to close very soon, but a lot of the leasing, the decisions, and the closing takes place by 31st of December. We are expecting 50 to 55 million square feet of office leasing to take place this year, which is significantly higher than approximately 40 million, which happened last year. So, it's come back. But if you really look at, the peak was 2019. We have not gotten back to 2019 levels yet, which was 65 million square feet. But still, with the background of COVID, where 2 years back, it was about 36 million square feet of leasing, we are going to touch 55 million. It's a significant improvement and is a very positive sign. There are many other countries who can't, claim these kind of numbers, even some of the other mature economies or the larger economies. So that way, India has done very well. You're right. Part of it is pent-up demand, because again, during COVID times, all that decisions were held up. And the other is that these companies are growing. India is still growing at 6.5%. Is still growth, which is higher than many other countries. Of course, with a low base, but it is partly pent-up demand. And partly the growth we have seen of all these corporates growing in India.
What about vacancy levels in office? Have they also considerably reduced? What could be the reason for that?
The vacancy levels have reduced because of demand. And there was a time in between where the new supply was also slowed because construction slowed during COVID period. So there's always a market, as you know, it's demand and supply. And there is always a time when because if the supply slows down and the demand continues, then that gap reduces. However, what is interesting is that the supply side, India is still, in spite of COVID, and especially right after COVID, the construction activity improved in the office market in particular. And it is we are expecting 50 to 55 million square feet of new office space to come in, which itself is a record, because there are, again, very few countries where that much construction activity is going on. And that is primarily, in fact, for 2-3 reasons. I think one, of course, there's demand. The second is that investment, if you look at the foreign investment or even the institutional investment into office space has increased significantly. Third one, I would say REIT has given a lot of confidence to institutional investors to put money in office space. And and that also shows that there is that most of the investors are bullish on the office market in India. And that's the reason, in spite of COVID and whatever was happening recently, there would be 50 million plus supply of office space coming in.
Well, you segued very beautifully into my next question, which is actually the new supply of office in the first 9 to 10 months of 2022. Like you said, we're very bullish about that. That's wonderful. You touched upon REITs, but I want to deep dive into REITs right now. Despite the uncertainties, how have they done? And going forward, Anshuman, how do you think office REITs will grow? And of course, your thoughts on industrial as well as retail REITs.
First of all, this office REIT, I recall that, for many, many years, I think maybe it was 15, 17 years that, I had been sort of pushing that and advocating REIT, because more than the retail investors who can participate in commercial real estate through a REIT, the biggest plus point for a REIT is that it provides exit to institutional investors, which simply means that if an institutional investor buys into a big, large development or office or any real estate, then in the past, there were no institutions to buy that out. So, but now you can, institutional investor can put money in to put it simply, in an office development. And once it's built and leased, they can REIT it out and they can get the exit. So anybody investing in a country, any institution, one is, of course, they look at the return on the investment, they look at risk, but they also look at exit. And India did not provide that earlier because there are no institutions there. So REIT has really encouraged more institutional investment to come in. Answering your question, the REITs have done relatively well. The 3 REITs we have right now, I expect a couple of more REITs to come in the office space, and that's going to be really good for our commercial office, especially real estate. We expect that in 2023, which was supposed to happen this year, but it will happen next year, hopefully, there will be the first retail REIT which will come into India. Again, that will be really good for organized retail developments, because it'll encourage investors to come in, because they know they can, if they do a development, do it right, they can exit. I think the industrial REIT, again, is expected. When you say industrial, it's really logistics and industrial. The logistics market has done exceptionally well in India. Again, because from a low base, last 2-3 years, we've seen huge activity and investments going to logistics market. So they will be in 23, 24, we will see a few more REITs, both in office, retail, and industrial.
Well, you just talked about the third-party logistics market. There is no doubt, Anshuman, that India is today one of the fastest growing e-commerce and third-party logistics market. Given that fact, how has the industrial and warehousing property market fared, and do you think demand will continue to rise?
One of the segments of real estate, I would say, which was one of the most resilient in the background of COVID, was the logistics market. We continue to see growth of that. And of course, there are obvious reasons. Retail has been expanding, industrial is expanding, and e-commerce was the main driver, like you mentioned. And the whole model of after COVID, because of e-commerce and deliveries, logistics had to be closer to the consumers also. So that really changed the model. So it's done really well. Interestingly, India will be one of the few markets, if not the only market, where if you look at this year, 22, 23, and 24, in 3 years, close to 90 million square foot of logistics space is going to come in, right? I can think of any other country which is putting that much supply. And on the demand side, like I mentioned already, it's been doing really well. Among all the segments, as I mentioned earlier, logistics market did exceptionally well in the real estate sector. And we have seen, again, institutional players coming in. And that's one of the reasons of, on the supply side, there's acceleration. Because some of the large occupiers who are still growing, has also encouraged more investors to come in. So I do expect the momentum to stay in the logistics market.
Would you safely say that working from office is back as opposed to work from home?
It's a mixed bag, to be honest. So if you look at a lot of the financial services firms, Indian companies and all, in many firms, the office occupancy is back to pre-COVID levels. But then if you look at certain sectors, and that too, it has to be divided, but in tech sectors, the office occupancy is not back to pre-COVID levels. The fact is that, and also it really depends, but we are still, I would say, India and mostly Asia, we are still, the office occupancy, people going back to work is better than, let's say, Europe and the US, where I think they still are struggling to get most people back to the office. India, I think, is an exception where, like I mentioned, there are many segments of the businesses where we are at pre-COVID levels. But still, there are companies which will take longer to get people back to the office. But in the whole, this is a big debate that what's going to happen on getting back to the office. There's no doubt that I think overall it's not going to come back mostly to the way it was before, because personally I feel 2 years is a long time to form a habit, which is to work out of home, right? So there is at one go that people fed up who want to get back to the office. They don't want to work at home. There are others who are used to a certain lifestyle because of working from home. But basically, my feel is in India, most people will come back to work, to the office, unlike the West, sooner than later, where they have not. But there will be more hybrid working than it has been in the past, even in India.
Well, since we're based out of Mumbai, our studio, and this is the city of our residence, and I know that despite you not being in Mumbai city, you keep a very keen eye on it. What are office locations to watch out for in Mumbai city? How is Parel in central Mumbai and BKC faring? Because both Bandra Kurla Complex and Parel, we're very bullish about. But I just wanted to know if you feel the same way.
Difficult for me to comment on specific locations in Mumbai, but no doubt BKC has done really well. I remember when Nariman Point was the what you call CBD, and it was difficult to imagine it moving out anywhere. I think BKC has done really well over the years, and it is no doubt clearly the new. I don't want to say CBD, it's not, but it's a new business hub for Mumbai, and it's going to remain there for some time because it's not easy to establish a new development. People don't realize that any new area which develops takes 20, 30, 40 years to do it. It's not because it's not only office buildings. You need hospitals, you need schools, colleges, residential. You need an entire social and other urban infrastructure, which BKC has developed. As earlier there's high-end residential now, besides offices, etc. So I think Bandra Kurla complex will continue to be a major hub for office, and as we see more residential retail, as new hotels have come in there, and some of the top retail which was not there before is going to make a big difference, and BKC is now very well established. As far as Parel is concerned, it is of course in a way has become more of a central location in Mumbai, and I would say Parel is already well established. It's just that there's always a question mark on the traffic situation in Parel. I think with the new infrastructure which Mumbai is, which is going to come in or is underway, that should make Parel even, hopefully allow better movement in Parel, and that will allow more development. It's well established in retail. Of course, a bigger residential location than BKC. Parel has got its own advantages of having a well established, first of all, location. Second is Parel and around Parel, the residential is doing, is really very well established. Retail is well established. And if you look from living point of view, Parel is of course more well established in BKC, but the office market, I think BKC will dominate. And I think overall Mumbai, with the entire infrastructure which is coming in, I get amazed when I'm in Mumbai and I go up in a tall building and look outside of what all the infrastructure is happening. I think in next 2 to 3 years, Mumbai will be a transformed city.
True, we're keeping our fingers crossed as far as that is concerned. Zooming out of Mumbai and now looking at the macro picture, India again. What about co-working and flex players? How much are they occupying in India? And your feeling towards the co-working space, that sector, and flex players, Anshuman?
Both co-working, flex has done really well. Of course, the co-working had a bit of a setback during COVID time, but I think they've bounced back really, really well. And the reason, part of the reason is that, again, I think while COVID impacted them during that period really harshly, but they not only rescued them, but they benefited them exponentially, I would say, because most of the corporates, whenever things like COVID happen or recession happens, it sets in uncertainty. And that uncertainty sort of pushes companies not to commit too much capital, right? Because they don't know what's going to happen. So both flex space and co-working allows companies to take up space without spending money on fit outs and everything, and not to invest capital. One, and secondly, the uncertainty also makes it difficult to forecast what's going to happen, right? So if you take a large space and suddenly you do better than that, or you do worse, so then you are stuck. So these two factors has really helped the co-working and flex space. Today, in almost every city, a large percentage of the office leasing which is happening would be in co-working and flex. And I think that's going to stay, because after COVID, with all the talk about recession globally, that's only going to benefit the co-working and flex space operators.
Hybrid working as a workspace strategy. How's that looking according to your research, Anshuman?
Yeah, hybrid, like I mentioned earlier, that hybrid is here to stay. It's just that my only concern is depends on many factors, and it really depends on which country. Like in the West, the infrastructure wise, the way the work happens, maybe it is a bit more conducive to doing more hybrid. But I must tell you, a lot of the large American firms or European firms I talk to, their senior management, they would mostly like their people to be back in the office, because end of the day, we can, for example, you can do Zoom and you can do, video conferencing, etc. There is no substitute for, physical interaction. The other thing, if coming back to India, we do have, compared to many other countries, a young workforce, right? That young workforce means that they need to get to know each other. They need to learn so much. And how do you learn? You can't learn remotely. You can get all the education qualifications, but personally, I feel you learn from each other. When you meet each other, you observe each other, you exchange ideas. So I think in India specifically, there will be no doubt more hybrid working. But because we have a young workforce, because a lot of there are still people who are living in joint families, so they don't have space to work at home. I think particularly for women, of course, if they have children and they're pregnant, that's an exception. Generally speaking, it's also getting out of home, and working in an office space is important. So in India, we will see larger number of people coming to office compared to some other parts of the world. But they will be more hybrid than before, because like I mentioned, this 2 years is a long time, and we will see companies being a bit more flexible in especially in exception situation to allow people to do hybrid working.
It's a difficult question, but I wonder if you could put your finger on what are the sectors that are at the forefront of the hybrid working model, and how many of them, according to you, could be planning a portfolio expansion?
See, sector-wise will be difficult because, but no doubt,
Yeah.
like if you're in the service industry, and depends on which service industry, there are service industries you cannot do any hybrid because you are in front of a customer, and so there's no choice. For example, we have a project management business, one of our business lines, right? We have to. There's a physical construction where we could be project managers. You can't do that remotely, especially not in India, right? Because you have to be there at the site. And our project managers, we have another business line which is called facilities management. You can't do that mostly remotely. So even during COVID times, and that's why I call them our heroes, our employees working in the project management or the facilities management had to go to work, because you can't remotely do this work. Now, then there are others. For example, we have a consulting work where you can part of it do it hybrid. So I think it really there are companies which do software development, coding, things like that. They may be able to do some part of work hybrid. So tech industry, even there, if you read the news, they want the manager wants them to come back, because end of the day you need to interact. You have to have that human interaction, the collaboration, exchange of ideas, etc. So I would say, yeah, it will depend on different sectors. Some impossible, others wherever you can, they will be no doubt hybrid working.
What about non-metro cities as opposed to urban centers? I mean, our interest levels towards building offices in not-metro cities seeing a rise. And do you think that will reduce the infrastructure load on metros, and that in turn could see a more equitable growth?
That's how it should be. But I must say, it hasn't happened in India. Unlike China, where there are many, we don't even know their names or can't pronounce those names, and there are large cities doing well. In India, I must say the good news is finally happening, right? For last 25 years, I've been, in fact, there used to be these press articles. They will say, okay, tier two towns, cities are the next growth areas. It hasn't happened for many years, but like I said, I'm really pleased that finally it is happening, right? So if we look at our business, we used to say, okay, it was a hub and spoke model. You're in Mumbai, so you'll go to other cities. You're in Gurgaon, you'll go to Rajasthan, all that. For the first time since last year, what we have started doing is that we are starting hiring people in some of those tier two towns. So Chandigarh, Jaipur, Coimbatore, Indore, and I can go on. Kochi, the ones I can think of on top of my Lucknow. So we are not sending people there, but we are hiring people who will be placed there, who will be based out of there. And the reason for that is, to be honest, it's not really offices. What is driving the tier two market from the real estate point of view is, I would say, retail, because a lot of the retailers are expanding. And if they have to expand in India, do volumes, they can't be just sitting on cities, right? So they have to capture that, whatever the market is. It's a small market, but it's growing in these tier two cities. So the retail is growing. The cost is lower of real estate, of people. So your sales may be lower also, but your margins are better because your cost is less, right? And then you
True.
add up all this. The other is logistics and industrial market in these tier two towns. Third, I would say there would be, a little bit of, office, little bit of residential, then everything else comes in. But finally, after so many years, we are seeing activity and levels in tier two cities. The economy is growing. But to say that, will that reduce the load on the cities? I think that's again a longer discussion, because I think the big challenge in the tier two cities, what we have as a country, is that talent.
Yep.
End of the day, the investment, especially office and all, goes to places where you can get talent. There isn't enough depth of talent in these tier two cities, but that is slowly changing. We are, as the infrastructure improves in these tier two cities, as the young people who, because what happens is, the young people also want to move to big cities because of lifestyle, because of opportunities, jobs, etc. But as the infrastructure improves, which is improving these tier two cities, as there are more, both social and urban infrastructure, because not only you need good schools, hospitals, we also need good entertainment malls, etc. As that is all happening there, and as the younger people choose to stay back, which is starting to happen, the tier 2 tier 3 towns will see growth. So I see from now onwards, it hasn't happened much till now, but now onwards, for next 5-10 years, I'm quite optimistic on growth of the tier 2 cities in India.
Fabulous. Just some lifestyle questions before we wrap, Anshuman, which we ask all our CEOs just to lighten the mood before we say final bye-bye. Your favorite travel or holiday destination, and what did you most enjoy about the place? What were your activities there?
Favorite is very difficult to say. Maldives is certainly one of my favorites. Goa is another one, which is, I'm sure, everybody's favorite. So one end, like the and you are in Mumbai. I think one of the things I say, being based in Delhi, I miss is that there's no water view here,
Yeah.
and water has this calming impact on you. So when I go to Mumbai, just looking at the sea, that feeling is great. So you're fortunate you are in Mumbai. I know there are other challenges in city of Mumbai, but that water. So yeah, so I really love being in front of the water. So be it Maldives or Goa, both are favorite.
Amazing. What kind of music do you enjoy listening to? Are there any favorite artists or bands or groups?
Yeah, music is extremely important. One of so I like jazz and I like Indian classical music.
Wow.
And only thing is, I find very few people who like both, to be honest. But I personally really enjoy the Indian classical side, be it uh, classical singers, or be it ghazals, or to jazz. So yeah, those are two and extremely important part of my life. And I just hope that I always wish that I had more time to listen to music.
Eclectic taste. Wonderful. Any concert or music performance that you went to recently or maybe earlier? Could even be your college days or before the pandemic, and it was just memorable. You came away from that concert saying memorable. Could you recount that?
Yes, I mean, a few, frankly, in recent times, I'm struggling to, I think there was struggling to remember, but I remember many years back, one of the concerts I remember was, again, nothing to do with jazz or Indian classical. It was AC/DC.
Wow.
So
Hard rock.
I had an opportunity to watch them live, and I was sitting quite in front, so my ears were what you call, I couldn't hear for next 2-3 days without exaggeration because it's so loud. But I remember that because that was a rare moment I'd gone to heavy rock metal kind of a concerts. Of course, I'm talking many years back. But otherwise, I enjoy listening to to Indian classical concerts I've been to, which are mesmerizing. In fact, I am looking forward to, there's a concert, and I've not been to one for a long time, where Ustad Zakir Hussain and Ustad Amjad Ali Khan are going to play.
Wow.
Zakir Hussain is one of my favorite musicians, so I'm just looking forward to attending that concert.
Beautiful, beautiful. What's your fashion sense like? What do you like to wear in the boardroom, Anshuman, and uh, when you're working, obviously, and of course, outside work when you're relaxing?
Well, suit is always a thing. Only thing what has changed after COVID is that I find I struggle to wear a tie now, because after not, and I shouldn't be saying this because I tell my colleagues or formal meetings you still wear a tie, but honestly I don't push them anymore so much because post COVID, so I still wear a suit. but not the tie as often as one should wear. Hopefully, he'll come back again, which is there. So yeah, so that's a jacket and a formal trouser or suit is for for any business meet. There was a time, of course, I used to make sure that everybody, like I said, we are in a service industry, you have to wear a tie. But
Sure.
frankly, the more I think of it, for a country like India with the weather, this is some. I think really the ties are difficult to wear. Again, this is the first time I'll be admitting this. But on non-business, anything goes. Frankly, I'm not. I don't just nice shirt and some lately I've also started wearing cotton trousers, which I never used to, like the and shirt. I'm quite relaxed. I'm not too much into fashion that way.
Just smart casuals. Smart
Yeah, smart
casuals.
casuals are okay. I mean, I don't think too much about what you call clothes, but of course, I'm conscious about my dressing, I must admit.
Wonderful. That was Anshuman Magazine, Chairman and CEO, India, Southeast Asia, Middle East, and Africa at CBRE on our IPC's special, Minding My Business, the CEO Story, Season 3, powered by Nucleus Office Parks. We will return next week with another captain of the industry. Thank you very much for your time. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank
Cheers,
you.
Anshuman.
Thank you for having me again. Thank you.